Hi, I'm Stephanie McKeith, and I normally host a Cancer Coach Chat. And this is more of an impromptu session because I want to talk more about the emotional contribution or emotional trigger to ill health, illness, disease, the disease process, and most especially the healing process from disease or illness. There's a lot of question, and we get a lot of questions regarding why does this person get sick from the virus that's going around and why didn't that person? Why did this person, why did the cancer develop in this person's lung but in the other person's ovaries? So my son Evan has been studying facial mapping. And facial mapping tells the story of past traumas, emotional experiences that trigger or lead into a disease process, right?
Yeah.
And he just brought up something really interesting to me, and it was really in regards to lungs. So I'm going to flip the camera, if I can flip the camera here. Apparently I cannot. So I'm going to have to bring it around this way so you can see Evan. So come closer. Okay, so you're studying facial mapping, but first, for somebody who doesn't understand facial mapping, explain what that is.
It is over time, as you age, you get lines on your face that are from micro expressions of feelings or thoughts or interactions that caused you to do a slight movement. And that slight movement in your face over time creates these lines. So when you have an emotional trauma, your face changes how it rests or what resting position it's in. And when that happens, it can create lines on your face from traumas. So when you bring out those emotional traumas,
Bringing them out meaning what?
talking about them when you get them, at whatever age you got them from, that is from your young mind and your young perspective on situations. So when you look back at it with a new perspective of an older person, it starts to go away and you start to release the traumas and the emotional negatives that you had from it.
So for somebody who develops a cancer diagnosis, there is always an emotional connection. There's always some type of emotional trigger. Whether we know it, realize it, or want to admit it or not, there 100% of the time is, and it's been proven by doctors and scientists who have studied CAT scans and things like that. But in order to completely heal, which is what we call holistic healing, you not only have to heal the physical body, but you also have to address emotional traumas and triggers. And that's where the facial mapping comes in handy, because you can look at somebody's face and map their face out, right?
Yeah.
By according to where their lines are, what direction they're going. So it's like face reading.
So Dr. David Snyder said that there is no such thing as an emotionally healthy cancer patient. So, for example, if you have a line coming from the inner canvas of your eye going down, as it goes down, it starts to get bigger and cut deeper. This is your lung area, so as time goes on, that'll get bigger and deeper, which means it is worse because that is a negative line. So when it gets deeper in this lung area, you may get lung problems like
Respiratory illness, bronchitis, things like that.
yeah, what are people that need inhalers?
Asthma.
Asthma is a big one. So if there's a negative line on your face and it's very deep and big, wherever organ is connected to that part of the face, there's something not right.
So the virus that's going around, one of the big questions that I keep getting and hearing is, why is it affecting so many people so much in a more serious matter than it does somebody else? And why do some people just not survive it and others kind of get through it a little bit easier? It's not easy. We all had it. It's certainly not an easy virus to get through, but we got through it. And the reason for that could be part of their emotional status.
So when you lose a loved one and you don't let that out, you don't vent it, then it builds up emotionally and physically as a line. So if someone has corona and they have a deep sorrow or depression line, then they already have lung problems and you're throwing in a virus on top of it.
So a comorbidity is not just obesity, it's not just diabetes, it's not just immunocompromised individuals.
There's something wrong emotionally.
So another comorbidity that we're overlooking in the majority of the population is the emotional status of this person, their traumas that has affected them by not processing their past experiences and just kind of filing away those memories.
Storing it, not getting rid of it, not releasing, venting, anything.
So we were able to look at some family photos because my dad had a lung cancer diagnosis, and when he brought up the lung, that sorrow line, right here, the sorrow line, we looked at pictures of my dad, and in the pictures he's got those deep cuts. Whether he's smiling or face at rest, he's got those deep cuts. And he had, we all know that he had many experiences in his life, especially the loss of his parents. There was a falling out with his siblings, and those affected him emotionally deeply, to where they not only cut into his health, but they cut right into his facial expressions. So those micro expressions he had at the time of the circumstance of the death of his parents, the progression of their illnesses, the death of his parents, almost like a death of a relationship with his siblings at the time. Eventually he was able to revive those, and he was able to heal those sibling relationships, thankfully, thanks be to God. But for years, decades, it just embedded into his face, and those links that those emotions had, those negative energies, settled into his lungs. So when he developed cancer, it's really no surprise that Pod developed lung cancer, right?
Yeah, which on top of smoking was just waiting to happen.
So very much lifestyle. So emotions are part of the lifestyle. It's not always linked to genetics. The way you process emotions, the way you perceive certain situations, the way you look at them, stems from childhood, right?
Yeah, everything from year one. There's lines on your ears from when you're 1 to 8, and then 7 to 12 or 13, and then it comes from here and keeps going on to here until it's to your hundreds for emotional trauma lines.
So part of the healing process could also be to seek out somebody who is specializing in facial mapping, because you can, with all the studying that you've been doing, I pretty much have to walk around like this now because Evan's always reading my face and other people's faces, but you can pretty much gather a good idea of what their life has been like from the time they were a child till this point.
Yep.
So
and how they're doing, like with their organs. Really good face readers or masters of face reading can tell you how every organ in your body is doing just from looking at your face.
And is this hearsay or opinion, or is...
No, it's from traditional Chinese medicine and face reading. It all
So,
ties in with science and tests and examples and experience.
so evidence-based,
Yes.
science-based research. It's not a new discovery.
Nope.
It's something that's been, well, traditional Chinese medicine is pretty darn old, right?
Yeah.
So, if talk therapy is not always something that works for you because you've blocked things out, you can't remember, you're choosing not to remember, definitely reaching out to somebody who does face mapping or face reading to help kind of instigate or bring up. So you just kind of start asking questions, or you identify certain lines. And it's very interesting. If anybody's interested in learning more, Evan can flow for hours in the face reading, facial mapping conversation, and it's very not only interesting but helpful. So, and can be awkward and painful too, because when you start to process things you didn't expect to process, or that you thought you had already dealt with but you didn't, it just really, you stuffed it down or suppressed it into an issue in your tissue. So when you start identifying them and releasing them, that can be painful but necessary.
After a face reading of getting rid of those emotional traumas, they have taken before and after pictures.
Who's they?
For example, Dr. David Snyder and Lillian Bridges have done these. They take pictures, do the face reading, and then after they take another picture, and the structure of their face can change. The lines almost completely disappear in the matter of time of them doing it, and then over more time of them going home and thinking about it or anything, more time, it would just start to go away, and your face changes because your emotions are too.
So your face tells the story of
History.
Your history. Is it all negative or bad?
Nope. For example, there's joy lines. So if a line is coming from the outer canvas and going up, then if it's deep and it's big, someone has had a lot of happiness and pure joy in their life.
And somebody who's just full of negativity or hard knock life, or has the perception that their life is hard, probably more likely somebody to be depressed, anxious, mental instability type, paranoia, personality disorders. They're going to be more of what type of lines?
So a lot of times every time when someone looks at the world subconsciously like glass half empty, then their eyes rotate down. I forgot what the anchor point is to check it, but you put a line at like half of your eye, and if it points down, then you look at the world glass half empty, what is wrong, things like that. If it goes up, if it rotates up, then they look at things glass half full. This is great, that's great, what else can we do to have more great?
Cool. So if you want to know more, if anybody's interested, Evan can talk for hours and hours, and he's got a lot of research invested into this, and it would be really helpful for a lot of people to understand more of this, but it's not something that's talked about a lot unless you have a special interest in it and you're looking for the information. But if we were to share this far and wide and start understanding more of the emotional play into our overall health, we'd be a lot healthier and probably not getting as sick as a lot of people are, and we could eliminate a lot of cancers a lot more effectively and efficiently.
Could have prevented a lot more of COVID deaths if you dealt with your emotions.
Yep. So thanks for watching. Right? Thanks.
Thanks.